just got back from my first ever Hermès Private Sale, which was held at the Expo at World Market Center in Las Vegas from September 23rd to the 27th. Since this was my first time attending, I honestly didn't know what to expect, but I wanted to take you through the entire experience with me. From people literally running to the shoe section, to strict check-in rules, maze-like layout, and a few surprise finds along the way. I'm sharing everything, what I saw, what I bought, what I regret not buying, and tips sprinkled throughout the video I definitely consider if I get invited again. So let's start with one of the most common questions when it comes to the Hermès Private Sale. Who actually gets invited? So based on what I've learned from speaking with my SA and reading about it in blogs and posts, here's what I've learned. According to the essay, invitations are managed by corporate and not at the boutique level. However, your SA can submit client names, especially if that client is local to the sale location. She didn't go into much details beyond that, but it was clear that the final decision doesn't really lie on the individual boutiques. I also came across an article on Hermès that outlines some likely criteria. While Hermès doesn't officially disclose how invites are selected, the blog suggests a few factors that seem to play a role. So first, having an established relationship with the brand, being considered a local client over time. Thirdly, having a strong purchase history at your home boutique. Fourth, some invitations may come through business relationships. And lastly, there's an element of random selection likely to maintain some fairness and inclusivity. I also found similar insights on Reddit, although it's not an official source, of course, but there's definitely consistency in what people were saying. So if you're interested in the full breakdown, the article is worth a read, so you can find that at Hermès. In my opinion, it's not just about how much you spend, but I think how long-term or consistent client you have been to the brand plays a significant role. So I'd like to hear from you. Have you been invited to the Hermès Private Sale? If so, do you think it had to do with loyalty, the spend threshold, location, or something else? Leave that in the comment section. When you get the invitation from Hermès, you get to select a date and a 2-hour time slot and an opportunity to bring a guest to the sale with you. It's worth noting that Hermès Private Sale has strict rules for this event. You're only allowed to attend once, whether you go as a client or as a guest. If you try to register multiple times or show up again, they'll cancel your reservation. So don't try to work around the system. Hermès is very clear about enforcing these rules. So on the day of the sale, here are some of my observations. I went on the first day of the sale with my friend, and when we arrived, there were already a line forming. And while we waited, an attendant would walk down the line to check that everyone had their own QR code and photo ID ready. If you are a guest, they made sure that guests had pre-registered and also had their own QR code. And while we were in line, we did overhear a few issues where people who brought a guest, they may have forgotten to pre-register them, but the client just needed to add their guest in the system and that would fix the issue. There were technical issues with QR codes. People were just asked to step aside while they got their situation sorted out. The main organizer, the person overseeing the sale, personally reassured those guests that they would still be allowed in and that they were just a little later than their original time slot. Everyone received a colored wristband that corresponded to their specific time slot. And once your time was up, staff would start directing shoppers toward the checkout line. So timing was tightly managed and there were no exceptions. While we're waiting in line for our window, we saw a steady stream of people exiting the sale. and many of them looked so very happy, carrying multiple white shopping bags. And I actually overheard one woman saying how happy she was with what she found, and you could really feel her excitement. So when it was finally our time slot, we were ushered forward and security checked our QR codes and photo IDs before being allowed into the facility. From there, we walked up to a small check-in podium where they scanned our QR codes and checked our photo IDs again. And then after that, we moved into the next area where they collected bags and other personal belongings. They gave us a number tag so that you could claim your bag afterwards. Now here, I want to spend just a quick little second just to say that I did see people bring their Birkins and Kellys and Chanels, that they had to bag check those. My advice here would be not to bring anything that you would feel uncomfortable leaving with a stranger at the sale. We did hear, and I think we heard this, that they lost her bag and that they gave her $10,000 credit. And we thought we mistakenly heard this, but I wouldn't take any chances. So what I did was I brought this green wallet, which was allowed in the sale. And I saw other women had similar wallets on chain that they were able to bring into the sale. Then they asked if you had a phone, and like most of us do, they placed it inside a sealed pouch, the kind with a magnetic lock so you can't open it yourself. The back was completely black to prevent the use of the phone cameras, and the front of the pouch was plastic, but the plastic was only transparent enough to see the screen so that you can text and make calls if needed. But forget about trying to use your selfie camera to take any photos. They had signs, no photography or videos, and they were not kidding about this. So once you're inside the main shopping area, the layout is pretty well structured, almost like moving through a maze of sections. You're first going to enter the men's ready-to-wear section, where everything is neatly organized by size. From there, you move into the women's ready-to-wear, again arranged by size. The setup is pretty efficient with size 34 and 36 on one side of the wall and then size 38 and above on the opposite side. So both the men's and women's ready-to-wear section have a fitting room, which is great, but here's a quick tip. If the women's fitting room is busy, which it was, there was a line, head to the men's ready-to-wear section fitting room instead. This is what I did, and there was absolutely no wait. But there are some few rules to keep in mind for the fitting rooms. You can't take your nylon shopping bag inside. You have to leave your shoes outside the curtain, and you're only allowed 5 pieces at a time to try on. Also, there was an attendant watching who goes in and out and making sure that the rules are followed. So after you pass the women's ready-to-wear section, you end up in the men's shoe section. And just past that is where a lot of the chaos begins, the women's shoe section. So let's take a moment here because the women's shoe section was definitely one of the busiest and most overwhelming areas. There were tables and tables and tables of shoes, all sorted by size. But despite how it was displayed and organized, it still felt quite hectic. You really had to look carefully and move quickly because people were hovering over behind you, in front of you. And if you picked up a pair of shoes, people would immediately take a glance over to see what you are holding. Honestly, people went crazy for the shoes the minute we were allowed into the sale. My friend and I, we had planned to hit the shoe section first, and so did everyone else. So as soon as they opened the ropes for our time slot, we saw women just bolting, running past the ready-to-wear section straight to the shoes. So that's when my friend and I, we looked at each other like, do we need to pick up the pace to go to the shoe section? We didn't run to the shoe area, and maybe we should have, and maybe that was our mistake because I, for one, didn't leave with any pairs of shoes. So there was a wide variety of styles. They had a lot of colorful orans, oasis sandals, espadrilles, loafers, mules, and some boots. And here are a few standouts that I came across. I saw a pair of day sneakers, the one with the Kelly belt detail. This came in a nude color and some other colorways, and I tried them on and I really wanted to take them, but I could tell right away that they weren't going to be comfortable for me, so I had to put them back. I picked up a pair of Oz mules thinking I may be interested, and I actually carried them around the sale for a bit, but eventually put them back because I didn't quite love the satin. And then for my mom, I considered suede loafers in 2 different colors. There was one that was a dusty pink and then another pair that was in like a light blue. But I put those back because I wasn't 100% that she would love the colors. And then I came across a pair of black ankle boots, which I have considered in the boutique, and I would have considered them at the sale if they had them in my size. These boots, they tend to come back every year under a different name, so it would have been great to pick these up at the sale. So while I was in the checkout line, people were doing their show and tells, and there was a lady in front of me who had a pair of white espadrilles. They were absolutely perfect. Had those been in my size, I'm sure that I wouldn't have hesitated picking those up at the sale, but the only version that they did have in my size was this dark purple bluish color, and I won't lie, I was so very jealous that she was able to find those white espadrilles. Then there were these pair of riding boots that someone abandoned in the checkout line. They were in the style with the canvas on the shaft of the boot and then a box leather on the foot. They were in my size and people were encouraging me to get them in line, but I already own a pair of riding boots in the full box leather version, so I passed on those boots. Now in that pile of abandoned shoes in the checkout line, my friend spotted a pair of cream colored boots and picked them up very last minute. This was such a great find for her, and it was also in her size. I was so happy she was able to pick them up, and it was the perfect timing. It looked so great on her, especially with the outfit that she had on, and so I'm so happy that she was able to pick up her edgy boots. So after the shoe section, next you enter the scarf section, which honestly was a bit underwhelming for me at least. The cashmere scarves were in very bold and colorful patterns. Lots of reds, yellows, blues, bright pinks. If you're looking for something more neutral tone, this wasn't a place that you'll find them. Surprisingly, the tie selection was fine, nothing exceptional, but it's worth browsing if you're in the market, and my friend and I both were able to pick up a tie. The silk scarves were neatly displayed, all tied to racks in the repeated styles, so you could easily see what was available from the selection. Now, something unique about the scarf section is you can't just walk around with the scarf and tie out to go to another department. Once you make your selection, you need to go to a counter where an associate places them in a sealed clear plastic bag, and they also put a magnetic lock on it, and I think it's to help make sure they are accounted for during the checkout. So after the scarf section, you'll enter the homeware section, and this includes blankets, pillows, beach towels, and some decorative pieces. Now, even though I went on the very first day of the sale, I think a lot of the remaining things in homeware have already been picked over. And I say this because while we were waiting in line, I saw a lot of the pillows peeking through people's shopping bag as they were leaving the sale. I found the homeware section to be quite underwhelming and nothing piqued my interest. And finally, you'll see the jewelry section, which is where a lot of the chaos starts all over again. They had glass display cases with fashion jewelry, scarf rings, cufflinks, and other small selection of back charms. But here's the issue. The checkout line merges right into the space, creating a bottleneck. Again, people were crowding over the cases, trying to walk past people, and the space was quite tight. and honestly it felt a little hectic for me, so I quickly browsed that section and made my way back to the ready-to-wear and shoe section to get another look. So that's the layout of the sale. So now for the fun part, what did I get from the sale? Well, most of the pieces I picked up and purchased were from ready-to-wear and silks. To be honest, I did leave feeling a little bit of FOMO and disappointment that I didn't purchase a single pair of shoes from the sale, because I really love shoes compared to anything else. But I didn't need another pair of Orans or Oasis, but nothing really jumped out at me, and if I did see something that I did like, it just wasn't in my size. So here's what I did take home. This white shirt that can be worn as a light jacket or on its own. I love the cinching details on the waist and sleeves. It gives the piece great shape and some versatility. I got this hooded sweater that also came in E-tube. I would have preferred the sweater in E-tube, but that was a size bigger and the cut already runs big. This particular blue sweater comes in a non-hooded version, which I also liked, but I didn't need them both, so thought this one could be worn more casually, so I picked this one up instead. I did get a t-shirt from my husband with this fun and unique leather detail on the chest, which I really love for him. Also of note, I did not purchase this particular sweater that I'm wearing today at the sale. I did make this purchase from the boutique, and it was kind of interesting to see this piece at the sale along with the pink version. They also have the pink long cardigan version that I saw. I also got a few items from the silk section. I picked up 2 twillies, which I've already wrapped on my Birkin. And a tie for my dad, which felt like a nice and easy win in the silk section. Also, I would have looked at the coats and jackets section a little bit more closely if I had not purchased the bomber jacket that I shared in my Hawaii haul video. But in the checkout line, when people were doing their show and tells, I thought the cashmere coats that people had found looked really great on them. They picked up mainly the cream colors and the black color jackets. So as far as the discounts, and this is based on memory, ready-to-wear was 60% off, shoes, homeware, and a lot of the accessories were 50% off. With the silk scarves, they had specific pricing. For example, twillies were $125, and I wanted to say the 90 by 90 size scarves were $320 or around that. Ties were $142, and that's as far as I can remember in terms of the discounts. So as soon as your shopping time window winds down, security starts checking for your wristband color, and once they spot you with that wristband, they'll come up to you and let you know it's time to head to the checkout section, and they make sure that you head that way. So just a little heads up, we're not allowed to stay until the very last minute of the time window. They start moving people towards the checkout line a little early to keep the flow going, and I saw that the next time slotted group were trickling into the sale. And then finally, we're heading to the checkout line. The line wraps around and continues behind the wall into another set of roped off maze. In total, I'd say we waited around 30 to 40 minutes to get through the entire line and finish paying. So once you get to the front of the checkout line, there's someone there coordinating and keeping an eye on which checkout stations are opening up and sending you forward quickly and efficiently to the register. And at the register, they'll scan your QR code one last time to confirm your invite. Then they scan each of the items and place them into a white shopping bag. So after paying, you go through 2 more steps. A staff member will double check your receipt against the item in your bag. then you need to head to another table where they will then return your personal items that you checked in, like your handbag, and remove the magnetic lock on your phone pouch. And finally, you exit through the doors where security is standing and to make sure that everything is in order. And that, my ladies and gentlemen, was the Hermès Private Sale experience from entry to checkout. Before we wrap up, I wanted to share a few tips and lessons I learned from the sale, things I would keep in mind if I ever get invited again. So first, go with a budget in mind and have lots and lots of self-control. I have to remember that purchase from the sale, they do not count towards your pre-spend for a quota. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement of a discount, but you have to try to be intentional. I had to talk myself out of a few impulse picks. I had to put back a hat, a pair of shoes, and some other items. Secondly, have a strategy going in, because having a clear idea of what you want and strategize a game plan before going in. For example, my friend and I, we agreed that we'd head straight to the women's shoe section first. Since it tends to get cleared out faster, we saved men's ready-to-wear for last, since it's less crowded and usually not as competitive compared to the other sections of the sale. The other thing that I had FOMO about, I had completely forgotten about belts, or it might have been sold out with the styles that we would have picked up, but I saw women who had vlogged about their purchases who got the Pop H15 belt in green and pink. And so the belt section was definitely something that we missed, and I would prioritize next time. And lastly, think about the items that you missed out in the past 1 or 2 years from the boutique. I saw several pieces at the sale that my friend and I had bought at full price the year before. So if there's anything that you loved but you didn't grab when it was at the boutique, you might get lucky and you might find them at the sale. So overall, I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to attend the sale. It was exciting to be there. And there were moments that it was overwhelming and underwhelming at the same time. And that said, I did feel like some of the strictness was a bit overboard at the sale. And all of us are likely good clients of Hermes, so it did feel like we were being treated like potential shoplifters than their valued clients. Also, the long lines and crowded time slots added to the chaos. I think it would have been a more enjoyable and pleasant shopping experience had they limited the number of people per slot. So let me know in the comment section if you went to the sale. Would you go back if you were invited again? And what amazing pieces did you find? I'd be curious to know. If you found this video helpful or fun to watch, check out my other videos where I chat about other Hermes topics. And don't forget to subscribe and check out my Instagram, which has similar content as this video. And many thanks for spending time with me, and I'll see you in the next one.